Hello, lovely Holborn volunteers and staff. I am recording for you all a introduction to Mick Peters' new commission that opened on Friday and is up in the museum until May. So the title of the show is Old Ghosts, and it's all new work made by the artist Mick Peter. Mick is an artist who is based in Glasgow, but was born in Berlin. But grew up in Hampshire. And the links to the Holborn are sort of relatively long for him because his dad is an academic and taught until very recently at the University of Bath. So Mick and his family moved to Bath when he was, I think, 16 or 17. And Mick did his foundation at the art school in Bath when its campus was just around the corner from the museum. So he has a long history of visiting the museum as a student, and in the 30 odd years since then, has always had family in Bath. His brother is a builder based in Bath who actually built the set in the ballroom, worked out the safe way for us to hoist the sign on the front of the building safely up onto the portico. And his mum and dad came and saw this show before it opened. So it's got a nice geographic reason for it being here, that Mick has this history with Bath and history with the museum in particular. Mick did his BA at the Ruskin in Oxford, and then I think he was saying while we were installing 21 years ago moved to Glasgow to do his master's, and then since has also done a PhD and still lives and works in the East End of the city. He's shown all over the world. Most recently, before our show, he had a show, a similar commission at Hospital Fields in Arbroath, which is I don't want to date that building for you, but a very beautiful old building right on the coast, on the east coast of Scotland. Similar production styles in that show came into this show. And before then, he had a show at Baltic in Gateshead. His gallery that represent him is a gallery called Crève Coeur in Paris that he shows with relatively frequently. He's also had an exhibition at Tramway in Glasgow, the Sculpture Centre in New York, lots of places. So he's a very well-respected artist, and was recently included in a really nice book called, I think it's called Vitamin P3, which is a study of contemporary drawing. So is seen at the forefront of contemporary artists working with drawing as their primary medium. And there's a nice quote in an interview with him in that book where he talks about his work being sculptures about drawings or drawings about sculpture. And you can see that in bits of the show, I think. And I quite like that way that a medium that's traditionally two-dimensional, drawing, can become three-dimensional, or a medium that's traditionally three-dimensional, like sculpture, can sort of play with that idea of flatness and two-dimensionality that drawing has. And as you can see in the work, he's into sort of pushing at things and prodding at established notions of truth and what we think we understand about stuff and playing with it. So that idea of drawing and sculpture can sit with that general attitudinal thread that sits within his work. Going all the way back to the development of this exhibition, it was actually the idea to program this show came from Sylvie in that heady world before COVID. She had been to the Northeast and seen his exhibition at Baltic in Gateshead, and came back, and she and I had a conversation about it and sort of took it from there and had conversations with Mick. That exhibition was an exhibition actually where the work was really about making an exhibition. So there were 5 or 6 sort of sculptural tableaux in that show that went from the artist's studio, looking at the work that he was making. There were some sculptural works that looked like the office in the Baltic. So it was really playing with what structures are in place when we talk about exhibition making. And in a similar way, this show looks at some of those other structures that are in place at the Holborn. So he and I, having both grown up in Bath and known about the Holborn, sort of, it's been this presence in our life since we were teenagers. we were interested in playing with some of the ideas that go around, that sit within cultural industry, and especially sit within cultural industry in the last 10 or 15 years, when public funds to make exhibitions steadily decrease and pressures on the cultural sector to do more with less and to appeal to broader audiences and to diversify the way in which they work have become more and more prevalent. So over the 2 or 3 years that Mick and I have been talking about this exhibition, we've sort of meandered our way, thinking about different scenes that could exist in a show that he made with us. I was actually looking at an email exchange between the two of us from right at the start of this process, where I think maybe we had 5 or 6 ideas for shows, and they're written in notes that I must have scribbled down in his studio. One of which was messy kebab meets museum object. So I think Mick was into this idea of people eating in museums, or there being restaurants in museums that bring in money. But the idea for a sign on the front of the museum has been there almost forever. And the sort of idea of a sort of time team style dig on the front lawn has been there from the start. And maybe those 2 works that sit outside the museum are the best ones to start talking about. So the first work that you see as you come in are these 3 figures stood around a site of excavation on the front lawn. So the 3 figures are made in a way that Mick makes works that sit outside. So they're really, really robust. They're concreted into the turf outside, so they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to get damaged by the weather. They're actually made out of a material that's traditionally used for kitchen worktops, so it's really hard wearing. And he sandwiches, or he draws everything in the exhibition at 1/10 scale in a sketchbook, and then scans those drawings into his computer, and then they get sent off to the fabricator and blown up to full size. So everything exists in this nice tiny weeny little thing. And maybe when we do the walkthrough of the exhibition before the private view at the end of the month, I'll bring some images of the scale model that he made of the show and some of the original drawings, because they're kind of nice to see too. So yeah, he has this material that I think it's called Hymax, that is traditionally used for kitchen worktops, and the drawing gets laid between 2 sheets and they get sandwiched together. So they're these kind of quite big chunky things. On the front lawn, we have a woman with a little trowel in the sort of ditch that we've dug, scraping out and unearthing this bit of Roman road, and then 2 other members of the archaeological team standing around it. In the little dugout bit, there are 2 pieces of artifact that have been drawn, that have been excavated by this team, and it's meant to be anachronistic and sort of absurd and a bit silly. So you can see there's a bit of curbstone of a Roman road they've unearthed that lines up with the pavement of Great Pulteney Street. And there's also a sort of maybe Celtic slab in there as well. And you can see the sort of traditional Celtic sort of weaved symbol in that as well. But amongst that stuff is also a plastic water bottle and an old Nokia telephone. So there's this playing with the absurd and playing with the old and the new and the recognizable and unrecognizable in this sort of light-hearted, cheeky, sort of fun way. And a big thing for Mick is that the works should be really approachable. There's depth to them and there's complexity to them, and there are ideas that talk about things beyond the work, but at their heart, they are sort of satirical cartoons. And he takes a lot of inspiration from artists like Sol Sandberg, who was a cartoonist for the New Yorker in the 70s and 80s, and other places where drawn work or artworks are experienced by wide numbers of people. And part of that is the sort of satirical cartoon, advertising, graphic arts, artwork that's traditionally sits adjacent to museum objects and pieces. And he likes that, and I like that sort of push-pull and juxtaposition that's created by those things. So you have these 3 figures around the dig, digging up this strange thing. It's the first thing you witness, so it sort of tells you that stuff's not exactly as you might imagine it in the museum. And then hanging precariously from the museum's portico just to let you all know, it's not precarious at all. It's very securely hung up there. Is a hand-painted sign that reads exhibitions, that Mick and I got really into after looking through some archive images in the museum in the 50s or 60s. When the museum moved to its current site, it used to have a sign on the front of the building that said exhibitions. And we really liked that it's really graphic, that sign. And it, on the one hand, tells you what's going on inside the building, but it also doesn't tell you anything. Just the word exhibitions is very vague, doesn't tell you what it's about, doesn't tell you anything to do with content. And so it's actually this quite ambiguous word that leaves a lot to the imagination. And we like the mistake that's in there. Obviously, there's no I between, I can't think where the mistake is in it now, but it's intentionally spelt wrong, which Mick talks about, that when he's doing the really detailed work of sort of really honing in on doing a drawing, your brain is focused in such a way, the individual line work becomes very important, but the overall thing sometimes can get forgotten. So there's this sort of idea that a sign writer has painstakingly worked to hand paint the word exhibitions, but hasn't taken a moment to step back and look at what he's doing and notice that it's spelt wrong. I have not set this up yet, but I should do. We're quite keen to do a sweepstake, guessing the number of times people will tell us that we've made a mistake on the signage in the front building. During the installation, I think the morning after we'd put it up, we'd had 6 comments to the front desk and an email straight to Chris telling us that we might have made a slightly grave mistake. It's not a mistake, it's just a little funny joke. So that one again looks at another way that museums might diversify what they do and might bring in the revenue that's been lost over the past decade. So they might up their branding, they might let their grounds be used for other purposes to bring in cash, like a dig. So those are the pieces that you see before you enter the museum, and we're really into I'm really into the idea, I think we as a museum are too, that those works are available to view for everybody without having to pay. They're there when the museum's shut, and they have a presence that goes beyond coming into the museum and seeing what we have on offer inside. The last final bit of the show, and maybe the biggest scenario that's been set up in there, is a film set for shooting an advert for an imagined paint brand that Mick has invented. So here, obviously, we're playing with Bridgerton and the idea that not only the Holborn, but so many old buildings get used for film sets and as backdrops and as locations for broadcast and advertising and cinema and things like that. So we have this paint brand that Mick has invented called Old Ghosts, the title of the show, playing with and sort of looking at the way that people like Farrow and Ball, who kindly donate all their paint to us and sponsor us, the names that paint brands have that are sort of really evocative but don't really mean anything either. So you go into the ballroom and there's this really big film set made of flats like you would have at the theatre or in film, that's then populated with a series of actors and parts of the production crew who are either succeeding or failing, depending on where you look at the project from, in shooting this advert for paint. So you have some people in full costume reading their lines. You have a director, a boom operator, a camera operator, some of the product there on the floor on the dust sheet, the product being advertised. But then on the wallpapered backdrop of the room that's been built, lovely details that pull out real things that are in the museum. So if you look through the drawn windows on the right-hand side of the set, you can see the cabinet of ceramics behind it. You can see the woman that then is one of the 2D artwork sculptural women on the other side of the window. There are certain paintings that you see reflected in the mirror in the set. So it's meant to look like it's really there, but obviously is playing with our perception of what that space is used for. And there are little jokes and little visual puns and gags throughout that. So there's a proper job shopping bag, which is a shop in Radstock, which is where Mick's brother lives. I think there's a can of energy drink on one of the shelves. Just these little mistakes and little errors that a production company might make. We were into, I can't think what the recent film was, where coffee cups were left in shot and you could see them in the film. But that idea that even at the highest value and the most sort of high-end productions of things, these errors do sneak in. And Mick has this great ability to sort of see these details and sort of bring them out. They're not the way that he creates these gags and jokes. He's not putting an institution down. He's not belittling anyone. He's not being mean in the way he makes jokes, but he's looking at the structures that we all work within and playing with them and sort of giving a bit of a push to see where those things can take you. He was keen to draw on some of the characters that he's seen in the museum on visits and when he just came as a member of the public. So we spent quite a lot of time during the installation recognizing people that he had drawn as sort of the archetypal visitors to the Holborn, and we hope that that's a thing that visitors see as well. And it's meant to be a fun, approachable, engaging, funny. I think it's important that artworks can be funny. Piece of work to have in the building. Should put a smile on people's faces and be a bit unexpected, and a great opportunity for selfies and social media activity and those types of things. So it's an exhibition that should give quite a lot, I hope. It's direct in the way it communicates its ideas, but if you want more from it, there's more that you can draw out of it as time goes on. There'll be some public programming where Mick and I will do an in-conversation and talk about the project at greater depth. He's doing a day's sort of teaching and student activity with Bath Spa at the end of March or the beginning of April. I can't quite remember the date. But there'll be points when he's back in the museum for sort of more in-depth engagement, I guess. And like with all projects that any of the curatorial team are involved with, we're always all around to field questions. So I'm more than happy to talk through things as they go on. There will be an edition available in the shop in due course. I'm quite keen that it's one of the paint cans that's in the ballroom bit of the exhibition. I'm not sure that's what Mick wants to make, but that will, what we're doing there will become apparent over the next short while. I think that's probably the exhibition in a nutshell. I don't think I've missed anything that's hugely crucial to its interpretation. So yeah, I hope it's one that everyone enjoys. And if you have questions, you all have my email address and feel free to ask. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.